Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear us because we have some pretty cool news to hear and to share with you. So, as quick as Tom Bombadil is to save the hobbits from the Barrow-wight, we are here to share some pretty cool news with you about Rings of Power. And why am I mentioning Tom Bombadil? Well, the news just dropped. Tommy B is in the Rings of Power season 2. So, I have a group of friends here that they're going to help me break this down. So let's start with V. Hello.
Merry hellos to you, everyone. I'm so excited for this one.
Thank you for bringing us on such short notice to you. We have Shiv Knight. Hello, D.
Hello, thanks for having me. This one's going to be a crazy one.
Thank you for jumping over so fast. It's a different time zone for you. And of course, we have Gregory, who's my closest geographical buddy here. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm 23 years after being disappointed when Tom wasn't in the Fellowship. I'm excited to finally get to talk about him being in a Lord of the Rings show. So,
Same here. And of course, we have Harry in the background, taking care that everything runs smoothly. I hope he's here as well. And we have also a shout out for Kyle and Varking for helping us set this up so fast. And yeah, okay, let's just do one quick round. Maybe everybody can just do like one sentence, just like your first thoughts on this one sentence, and then we can just go through the article. So let's start with V.
I'm very excited. Always a Tom Bobadil fan. He's a very merry fellow with amazing blue jackets and yellow boots, and I can't wait to see him on screen finally.
All right. D, what about you, man? First
Well,
thoughts on seeing that Tom Bombadil is entering Zoo Power.
it's pretty insane. In one of the photos we're going to show, it looks like you can clearly see yellow boots, so that's pretty awesome. And a little surprised of the location he's at, but the guy's been around, I guess, for infinity potentially, so why not? He can travel.
All right, and Gregory, what was your first reaction? Just like pure
yeah,
excitement, or were you like,
yeah. On
okay, what
one
the hell,
hand,
or something like that?
I think when I first heard that it was likely he was going to be in the season, I was super stoked. I mean, I'm just like, it's so cool just to get to see it. I then, I just read this article and I have a little anxiety about how they're going to handle it. But either way, I'm really excited to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, basically my reaction as well. Yeah, like okay, that's potentially cool, but let's see how that's all gonna go down. All right, well then I think we can just dive into the article. So first we have this photo, and this is actually huge news, that he is at the same place with the stranger. So there's a lot of to unpack here. So first of all, we have a couple more maybe better photos later, but yeah, what do we think of him being together with a stranger? Let's start maybe with Gregory this time.
Yeah, sure.
So Tom Bombadil in Rune, all the way across Middle Earth.
All right. Well, let me start with my hesitation about it first. I think it's sort of implied. Maybe I can't remember if it's explicitly said, but it's at the very least implied in places. In not necessarily in the maybe a little bit in the books, but in Tolkien's notes and stuff that uh, Tom Bombadil can't leave his area near the old forest outside the Shire. And the Barrow Downs, that he's the master of those lands, but he can't go beyond them. And so this feels like a departure from that notion, but it also sort of mentions that that area used to perhaps be bigger in other days. So maybe that's a more recent construct. And so getting that sort of Tolkien context out of the way, I think it's really fun that he is with the stranger. I think the production value in the picture looks amazing, and especially given who the options for who the stranger could end up being. It's especially if it is Gandalf. We do already know that they have a long relationship going back thousands of years, and so it's cool to think that maybe this is the origin of that friendship.
Yeah, I think you raised a couple of really good points there. Okay, let's see. Shiv, what do you think? So what Gregor just said, that the fact that Tommy B kind of seemed to be connected into this area um, near Shire, and now he's all the way here. From what I remember, I think it was more kind of like a choice, but I'm not sure on that part. So Gregory might be also actually be exactly like that. So Shiv, what do you see? What do you think about this?
This photo on the screen in particular, it invokes a wizard, which is kind of interesting. I'm wondering if this fueled a lot of the rumors going around of like, oh, we're going to see blue wizards and stuff.
Mm.
Well, now we have Tom Bombadil, who's supposed to be wearing a blue coat, meeting with the stranger who's at least been confirmed as a starry. So there's something kind of interesting there. Is this going to be like a red herring? I know the article was saying Tom Bombadil, but now I don't trust anything. Maybe that, I guess that's my conspiracy theory for the day.
All right. V, what do you think? How does Tommy B look here? Does he look like a blue wizard, or does he look like a Tommy B? What do you think of his costume so far?
I mean, he has a blue jacket, so blue wizard, blue jacket. I don't think so. There are several actually. I think cases like rumors of who actually Tom B is in the realm of Tolkien. Some say it's Eru Iluvatar, and like in person, he's like human, if we can say human form. His physical form. Some say he's a Maya. Some say is a pre-existing being, even before Eru. Uh, I think it's very unlikely he's actually a blue wizard, because we kind of know their fates, that they kind of were lost in the East. And given like that Tomby has a blue jacket, I mean, we know that it's his color as well. Um, Personally, I just leave Tomby to be a mystery, but I love that we are getting to explore it in the show, because he's a nice break of a Tolkienian character. He's the epitome of what a Tolkienian character is to me. He's very unique, very weird, and he brings that happiness that I think every Tolkien story has as a note somewhere. Like I remember reading The Hobbit, and with the elves having silly little songs, and then having the same thing in the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings. It's something that connects all Tolkienian stories, having this one character being silly and merry and also kind of important to the plot. Yeah.
Well said. I think we should, because you said something very interesting. I think, yeah, let's start digging into the article itself. I think paragraph two actually has a pretty interesting mention from one of Tolkien's descriptions of Tom Bombadil, that he was the spirit of the vanishing Oxford and Berkshire countryside. So I think that kind of digs into this deep spiritual feeling of nature and just like merriness coming from living in such a place. So I think that's a pretty good point to make. But yeah, let's see what do the showrunners, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, what did they say about him? So, Gregory, maybe do you want to read the quotes here, and then we can discuss them?
Yeah, sure. Where am I starting with? There's a reason.
Yeah.
All right. There's a reason why he hasn't been in prior adaptations, because in some ways he's sort of an anti-dramatic character, Payne tells Vanity Fair for this exclusive first look. He's not a character who has a particularly strong agenda. He observes drama, but largely doesn't participate in it. In the Fellowship of the Ring, the characters kind of just go there and hang out for a while, and Tom drops some knowledge on them, adds McKay. Knowledge that's not particularly relevant to anything that they're doing or about to do. I can't see more than that. Oh, yeah, I agree.
Okay. So yeah, and then in the next paragraph, there's just like a small reminder of when he shows up for the first time. He saves the hobbits from Old Man Willow, who is this angry tree that's trying to basically swallow Merry and Pippin. And Tom Bombadil shows up, sings a song, breaks a branch against the tree, and the tree lets Merry and Pippin go. And later, he and his wife Mary, his wife Mulberry, host the Hobbit, and after that he saved them again from Barrow White. So a lot of theories um, were that in the trailer that because we saw something that looks like Barrow White, that we tried to see Barrow White, um, that he might be sorry, maybe just stop this talking. Um, that he might be saving someone here as well, but he seems to be across the Middle Earth. And yeah, so what do you get from this? Like, is he going to impart some wisdom on the stranger? How do you all read this? The quote, maybe the quotes that Gregory just mentioned. Anyone having a theory about this?
It's different. It sounds like the quote kind of has contradicting thoughts because on one hand, they're like he didn't interact or he didn't kind of meddle with like the hobbits as they went on to the path. They told them irrelevant information. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
I
I
mean,
mean, he does talk a bit about like I think like old kings and princes, and he kind of actually gives us a hint to Strider's appearance later on. But yeah,
It's true.
I don't know. It's weird. But Gregory, were you going to say something?
yeah, I read one of Tolkien's letters about Tom Bombadil a few years ago, and he basically, I think this is about as in depth as he ever gets about Tom Bombadil, which is that uh, he's talking about why why Tom isn't affected by the ring when he tries it on. That he tries it on and he's still visible and everything, and that it's has to do with the concept of wanting something, right? Tom doesn't want anything, so the ring has no effect on him. He's not corrupted by it, right? And Tolkien explains that Tom, in a sense, represents a scientific look at the natural world. In that it's not about even the elves might be good in Lord of the Rings, but they still want an outcome, even if it's preserving life and stuff. They still have a desire to accomplish, and Tom is apart from that. The only thing that he wants is to be able to observe nature and take in the beauty and sort of that's his role, is basically as an observer. And I think that maybe in this context, the article mentions that Rune is the nature there is dying, and so maybe that's Tom's call, right? If there's only one thing that he cares about, and it's the ability to observe nature, that maybe to the extent that he's willing to intercede on behalf of anything, it's this. And so that's where his goals sort of align with the stranger, and perhaps that he gives just sort of some insight into what's happening there, or maybe they sort of journey together to figure it out.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. Like, is he going to be, he going to stay this passive figure, or is it going to be kind of more of a, hey, let's go out on an adventure with Tom Bombadil? Let's see. But just real quick here, we have a photo, maybe a slightly close up of him. What do you guys think of him? Of the outfit, maybe so far? What do you think? How do you rate the style of Tommy B?
I think it's not as bright as it could be. It's quite often that we see in fantasy shows that they try to um, go down a bit with brightness. That was not the case with Lord of the Rings so far. It's a bit muddy and stuff, but it's good. I think given the elements and how naturally he could make an outfit, it couldn't be like pastel yellow, because for the last 10-20 minutes I've seen a lot of complaints about his boots, and I don't see how they could be more yellow than that, to be honest, and be still be believable. Although we are in a fantasy, so I mean, but still, it has to be a bit cohesive. But I like it. I don't know why they have it with or have him without a jacket. I guess it's hot outside. I don't know, but we're getting different looks in those photos, and yeah, it's okay. I mean, I didn't expect anything like this outfit. Very fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point that like he's in June, it's probably quite warm there, so he might wanna change up his clothes a bit. But we seem to have a guest here with us. Robert, hello, can you hear us?
Hello, I can. How are you doing? Fantastic to be here.
Well, fantastic to have you here, and right on time. Thank you for showing up so fast. What are your reactions on this news? And also, actually, first, can you introduce yourself first to the viewers, in case somebody doesn't know about you? Where do you come from?
Sorry, I'm finding it quite hard to hear you, but I'm going to assume that you're saying welcome and nice things, and probably also asking me a little bit about what my reaction is to this. Overall, I'll give you my headline thought, which is that I I do love Tom Bombadil. I think it's a fantastic character. I will admit to being nervous. I will admit to thinking that the boots aren't yellow enough. But I'm the, the more I'm going into it, I think the sort of I have law concerns, as I suspect many people do, and I'm sort of working my way through them at the moment. But I think the thing that I'm most intrigued by is whether they're going to capture the spirit of him as being um, not about sort of doing and pushing people to do stuff and things like that. I saw in the article that the showrunners were very keen to be, well, not keen, but they admitted that he was, I think what they said is like 10% more proactive and pushing people to do stuff than in Tolkien's story. So I'll be interested to see whether or not that actually kind of changes what I suspect many people see as the essence of the character. But Rory Kinnear is an excellent actor, so I'm filled with trust on that part.
Well said. Uh, I have a theory I wanted to pose to the group, see if anyone has any comments on this. So, Tom Bombadil is meeting with the stranger in some of these photos. Stranger, we at least know, is an Astari. Is it possible, or do you think it's feasible that Tom Bombadil helps the stranger figure out his identity?
Uh,
Um. Oh, sorry.
Go on.
Go on. Okay.
No, please. I've already said a piece. Somebody else talk.
Okay. I really like that you brought that up, Dee, because as I was reading through the article, under I think the third image that Stranger and the Bobadil Stare Somewhere, there is a comment actually that reads, Christian Misted, our production designer, had the idea of incorporating a star map on his ceiling to connect Tom with the larger universe and indicate that he has been watching the constellations for signs and for the stranger's arrival. So Ryan and Patrick McKay says. So I guess we have sort of a confirmation that Tom will be tied to the story not only to help but to have some sort of a part. And basically there is a plan of how he will fit in with the stranger and his storyline. And if we zoom in the photo, you probably can see the constellations on behind like their heads. So yeah.
I'm going to say that it's also worth mentioning that they're going to Rune, which is famously where the Blue Wizards are. If the stranger is Gandalf, it could very well be that the two of them together go and find the Blue Wizards, and that we see all four of them this season. And that because it makes sense in theory that Gandalf has to meet the Blue Wizards at some point and get to know them. And I think I mentioned this theory last time that when we see those meteors in the first episode, that the people who are witnessing those are in different geographical locations. And so it seems to not make sense that they'd all be seeing them. It seems to me reasonable that those were multiple meteors that we were seeing, landing in different places, representing the different wizards, and that they just sort of obscured that. And if that's the case, then it could be that we're going to get like a sort of a reunion this season or the next.
I have a small theory, but first, can you just tell me, is my audio better now?
Yeah.
All right. So regarding the constellations and all that, what if actually ties also with what Gregor just said. So what if, for example, we had the two blue wizards, and of course one of them is, let's say that one of them is a stranger. What if this other one got in some kind of trouble, and Tom Bombadil decides to intervene and help stranger find the other blue wizard?
That'd be
What do
interesting.
you guys think about that? Because I think also somewhere in the article it says that Tom Bombadil isn't supposed to go around meddling too much. It says that his role changes like 5 or 10% to more active. So what if he's there to just like give some pointers towards towards the other blue wizard, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I found quite fascinating about the article was the way that they were trying to say that they were wanting to understand. I can't remember the exact words it was saying, but what is it that he does want? What does he care about? And I think that the kind of implication there is that he cares about Middle Earth, which I think he probably does, and therefore will be proactively wanting to do something about that. And I mean, I'm a little bit uncertain about this, him waiting for the stranger, because that seems to imply that he's therefore wanting something to be wanting to get involved himself, wanting to engage with the stranger when the stranger arrives, whoever the stranger may be. Whereas the Tom Bombadil I know is very much just wanting to be singing silly songs and drinking beer with hobbits and having fun with Goldberry. So I think that that is clearly a tweak, and I have to admit I appreciate the showrunners being upfront about acknowledging that upfront and saying that that is a change that they have made. But yeah, I think if they are putting him, if they're shifting him as they have done right to the other side of Middle Earth, it's because they're wanting him to be pushing, as I see it, pushing the stranger towards whatever purpose he has, which has to be meeting the other blue wizard, I guess.
I think I'm going to try to put this in the context of something that I think makes sense within sort of Tolkien's world, or sort of capturing the tone of him, the spirit of him, as you said, Robert. If Tom Bombadil does represent, as Tolkien said, sort of the disappearing English countryside and stuff, right? And his one sort of love is nature. Morgoth created Ardamard, right? A fallen earth. And in a sense, it sounds like Tolkien's sort of saying that Bombadil represents Arda unmarred, right? The part of the earth that is still pure and beautiful and green and grows and cheerful. And so I think that to the extent that Tom Bombadil wants anything, it would be to protect against a dying land. And that seems, very, I think Tolkien said once that if it came to it, Tom Bombadil would tip the sides because a Middle Earth ruled by Sauron would have nothing for him. And so perhaps that's what this is. That Middle Earth is dying, or parts of it are, and this is the place where he's willing to tip the scales a little bit, because ultimately, it represents the only things that he actually cares about.
Interesting. I think that, yeah, there are some good points there. I think, what if, again, just drawing all the chaotic thoughts I'm having at the moment, um, what if this also somehow ends up connecting with the Ant Wives? Because they were supposed to be, basically on the way to Rune. They were supposed to be in this area called Rovanian, which is like this huge area between, Mordor and Mirkwood, and then you have on the east Rune. So I think that would be also something that we can expect. Before that, uh, let's hear, also everybody's, uh, thoughts in the chat. What do you people think? What is going to be the thing, the coolest thing, or like the most important thing that Tom might end up doing this season? And also, as our friend Green Lantern's podcast has been saying, Hey Doll is going to smack. But also, you should all smack the like button, because that helps us a lot. And also, yeah, let's hear your theories. What is Zombie going to be doing this season, or at least what we're hoping to hear? Um, so we also have Robert here, but he seems to be having some technical difficulties, so we'll wait for him. But yeah, in the meanwhile, um, Shiv, or one of you two, or both, please, could you maybe tell us what do you think of maybe Tom meeting Ant-Lives? Could we meet them?
That would be really cool. I was trying to fastly pull up a map of Rune and Middle Earth to kind of see. I see there is a forest bordering the top right of Rune as well. So, is it possible, like, if we're not getting Entwives, are we at least getting Ents? But I guess what would be the purpose of meeting Ents? Like, would they be helpful in? Are we going to have Ents kind of attacking Sauron's forces again? Like, could that happen? Is that in the books? Are we breaking lore there? Um, personally, I like seeing the Ents in action, so I wouldn't complain. But yeah, I'm real time trying to process like what could Tom Bombadil be helping the stranger with?
What do you think,
Um,
we?
I don't know if he will be exactly helping him with like finding his identity or anything, or if we will see end wives in the process. But maybe in the long run, because we don't know for how many of the 5 seasons Tomby will appear. He could be a one-off for this season. He could be a stable character for the rest of the seasons as well. But what if we slowly see the deforestation of the big forest that connects basically most of Middle Earth? I don't know if it. I think in the second dates we still had it, and Numenoria's kind of help with the destruction of it. So maybe we slowly see the process of end wives getting separated, and because they were traveling, and then the forest is no more for them to go back. Tomby kind of the same, like he's traveling from Rome to the Shire probably. At some points he ends up just staying in the old forest because there is no more of the big old forest to protect and to go back to like other houses he may have had. Um, because like in second dates and in the beginning of the third, we see the face of Middle Earth change a lot, and geographically as well. Like forests are getting demolished, and the places go and shift more to where we knew them in the end of the third dates. Like second age is a place when Sire isn't established, Bree isn't established, and all those places that we are familiar with are more in the woods, basically. So I'm really excited to see how they will show, if they will show the change of Middle Earth, like geographically.
Okay, I got a theory. I'm going to combine Strider and these points. Okay, so there's this theory, right, that the Entwives basically started the Shire. Sort of made the land fertile and a place where things grow well before the hobbits arrived. So what if we do go and granted, they'd be in the wrong place, right? They're not supposed to be in Rune to begin with. But let's say that they go there and the Entwives are in this land where everything is dying and they need to leave. What if Tom brings them to the west, and that's how the Entwives get to the Shire? Sort of.
I mean, I think
Nice.
that, yeah,
Everyone
I
to
think it
stand
could
to
it
speak.
could work.
Sort of
I mean,
setting up the
they
third
are, yeah. Um, just to check, Robert, are you here with us? Because you kind of seem to be popping in and out. Okay. Yeah, I think it might be possible to see something like that because in the books there's a very brief reference in the first chapter of the Fellowship of the Ring. There's like some hobbits, Sam, Ted Sandyman, and some other folks chatting about everyday stuff in the Shire, and there's a mention that someone's cousin saw on one of the borders of the Shire, I think maybe the north border, that there was like a tree that was walking and talking or something like that. And I always kind of took that as a little hopeful sign of somehow N5's surviving. So I mean, I think that's as good of a theory as any, like especially because the show seems to be setting up a lot of trying to like set up a lot of things that we see later on, thousands of years later in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. So I think this might be a pretty good theory, actually.
And
Um,
take a look what
uh-huh.
Kieran put into the chat. That I'd forgotten about this, but it totally also works with the fact that Nori is there with the stranger, and so this might be sort of the origin of how the hobbits ended up, the Harfoots end up making their way across and into the Shire, because I think Tolkien mentioned no one really knows how they got across there, what led to that. So what if they were with the Entwives, and that's sort of how they managed to get across?
And also, I think Poppy isn't there as well, and Poppy is the new leader of the Harfoots. So maybe that connection also played a huge role in Poppy probably slowly leading the Harfoots there. Although it's a bit early, I think, for the establishment of the Sire. Like, it only happens in the middle of the Third Age, but maybe they just get past the mountains and slowly migrate there until they build the, Shire.
mhm. Well, speaking of hobbits and proto hobbits and all of that, so at the end of the first season, we saw Nori going with Stranger, but now Poppy shows up as well. So I guess it's all kind of connected together. Like, where are these tribes of hobbits going to go? And how their story is going to develop. So, anyone have any thoughts on how Nori shows up there? Because we kind of left her behind with the rest of the Harfots.
I found a really cool tool online. It looks like it's fan made. It's rop-map.com, and it seems to be an interactive map that kind of plots different characters and their travels. So it kind of helps paint a picture of how they're migrating. So Poppy,
Nice.
based on this map, kind of shows they're kind of in the middle of like where Rune and Rohan is, I guess, the best way to describe it. So you can kind of easily see with like the theory of potentially Tom Bombadil or the stranger um, giving some guidance, and then the hobbits moving, Harfoot's moving to the west. You can kind of see it on this map pretty clearly. So yeah, I can't to answer your original question though. How did Poppy get to Nori? I don't know how they're gonna explain that. based on the map here, it's a pretty long distance from where the group left off when Nord broke off to go to Rune under the stranger.
Um, um, Actually, Harry, can you get us back to this photo with the constellations? Maybe that can, maybe we can talk about that a bit. Thanks to our friend Warking for shouting it out again. So yeah, in the text as well, there's this mention of constellations and observing them. Um, and we saw Stranger actually looking at the stars in the first season. He's kind of talking about it. He in a way used the stars as some kind of guiding system. Um, the stars were created. Now this is not something that they have rights to, but this because it's in the Sumerian. But the stars were created by Varda, who is one of the Valar, and she's like the protector of the stars. And stars are actually, but in particular connected to the elves, while the race of men is more connected to the sun. Um, so yeah, do you have any ideas, any maybe theories, like how do we, because this map of constellations is on like in such a big, like, how do you say it, like you cannot miss it. It's right there. So perhaps any ideas or thoughts on how this map can be utilized? What is there, maybe some kind of like a additional meaning perhaps?
Yeah, the stranger, or Tom reads the stranger's horoscope because he's a Pisces, and
I mean, yeah, who knows, maybe it's like the twins, because we have two hopefully we have two blue wizards, so maybe there's something going on with like twins sign. How is, I don't know what's the Latin word for them.
Uh, I don't remember.
I think actually this is, I think, no, that's not the Pisces. No, I don't know.
Pisces
I
is
think actually
the fish.
it's the fish, but it's I think now is the, or are we in the Cancer?
I
No,
would like
no,
to clarify
already.
that was 100% a joke.
we know,
No,
but
I know,
we
I
are
know.
stuck with that.
I just know that the twins are actually around this time, so I was thinking, like, is it intentional that we have, like, maybe potentially two blue wizards being like some kind of like a meta joke on part of Amazon?
Oh, isn't the twin constellation Gemini?
Gemini, yes.
Gemini, yeah. Oh my God, yes. Thanks.
I remember
Why are we
early, like
talking
when
zodiacs?
the first when the first trailer came out and like they were showing like the stars and stuff. I remember one of the fans did have a theory that the stranger constellation looked similar to Gemini. It's not an exact match, so it could be a hint towards
Mhm.
something. And if it's the twins, maybe blue wizards. Holding on to
But
that theory.
it's kind of interesting that Tom B and the Harfoots are tracking the stars a lot. What if Tom B is the creator of the...
That
It's,
would certainly be
or
a big.
if they have met before in the past and somehow he has given them that knowledge. Anyway, but tracking the stars is really important for, it was really important for ancient civilizations to track the seasons. So it's not that weird that both Tomby and Harfoots have them, given that Harfoots use them to travel and Tomby probably just as well, because if he changes between the old forest, he would need some signs to where he should go. So yeah,
Um, so actually, there's a comment right below the photo, right below this photo. So it says, Christian Milstead, our production designer, had the idea of incorporating
I read
stars.
it earlier when you were off, Strider, when you were trying to fix your mic. That was
Okay.
what was I reading?
Yeah. So they said that, they said this is a way of connecting Tom with the larger universe, and indicates that he has been watching the constellations, waiting for signs and for strangers' arrival. So I mean, this is interesting. Like there are several mentions of like reading into stars in Tolkien's works. I think even one of the mentions is that, for example, the old kings of Numenor, um, when the this moral downfall of Numenor starts many generations before the actual downfall of Numenor, they spend their time high above in their observatories, observing the stars and looking into that. And there's a lot of these references about like looking into stars, but I don't know if we have like a proper instance of someone directly, like if we directly see someone looking into and like reading something out of the stars. So how do you feel about this like motive, I guess, of introduction of this whole process of actually looking for actual signs in the stars, because this is what the quote says.
I mean, it's not anti-Tolkien for characters to look into natural phenomenon for signs. I mean, think about Legolas. I think does it the most within the trilogy, right? You know, hearing the call of the birds by the sea and knowing that it's getting close for time for him to go across to the west, or seeing a red dawn and knowing that that means something. You know, what I mean, so it
Mm,
does fit within the context of the world. This seems like a little more explicit and like tarot reading, which is really not, I don't think, Tom's vibe that I've ever gotten. But just the practice in of itself isn't inherently anti-Tolkien.
The one thing I wonder is if they will name drop Earendil in some of those constellations and stars, because we already have him mentioned, like in Numenor, of course, and by Elrond himself. But what if they use Earendil star as well, like a sort of navigation? I don't know how the star works in this universe, to be honest, if it has its own way, or because basically Arendelle is on top of his ship cruising the skies, sort of. Um, so it would be fun if we had a little Easter egg in that constellation maps and all.
hmm Yeah, I think the some mention of Arendelle at some point in the show for sure. But yeah, it would be interesting if Tom Bombadil that particular reference. So Otaku Senpai says on around Arda, the constellations would be different in the northern and southern hemispheres. East and west wouldn't matter. So
Yes, but they're still moving.
This is also
Yeah.
Like
we're still in a
if
flat
you
part.
go, if you go, we are still in Flat Earth.
Yeah, right. Until the end of Numenor.
yeah, that's I
Yes,
was going to say.
yes.
So I think that's also going to be a very interesting thing. Like, will we ever will we see some kind of like rounding the earth moment? That's good, because that's going to be a very insane thing to put on screen. The whole um going from flat earth to round earth in the show. That's going to be a very interesting question. But yeah, canon wise, we should still be in flat earth
Yeah.
time at the moment.
But even if it was round, the constellations are important. They're not changing, but they are moving because you see them from a different angle as the Earth goes round. That's why we have in our universe as well. You have some constellations that you mainly see in summer and some that you mainly see in winter. For example, Ursa Minor. Uh, so constellations are important for navigation even in round situations. So yeah.
Do you mind if I take this to something that something that I read in the piece that made me excited for Tom, or something that I think
Yeah,
bodes
let's
well.
go.
Mm-hmm.
In the last paragraph of comment from Payne, right here, I'm going to read just a little bit of it out loud. It's second to last paragraph, I think. Uh, further down if you want to. Yeah, yeah. It's a further at the very bottom. Just, you can keep going. Um, yeah, yeah, right above there. Yeah, just about right. The Sauron one. Yeah, yeah. So it says season one, the set pieces are on the chessboard, and in season two, the pieces are in motion, and it's really about the villain. We've got Sauron, who's not cloaked behind the guise of human refugee Halbrand anymore. The audience knows he's Sauron. So now we're watching him maneuver. He's manipulating Adar, who's another big villain of the season. Really, Tom is a sort of curiosity within the structure because while it's darker, Tom is singing and saying lines that could be nursery rhymes from children's poems. So he sort of defies the tonal shift for the rest of the season as a real point of light amidst an otherwise sea of darkness. And what I like about this is, first off, I think in any drama, in any genre, too dark is not good. You need some levity. You need something that sort of balances the whatever you're watching. But also, this really reflects sort of tonally what Tom did in the books, right? There's this, Frodo's not quite at like the ultimate low he gets to when he goes to Mordor or anything like that, but he's at this sort of like low point where he's on the run and they almost get killed by the trees. And Tom sort of gives him the sense of there being hope, right? And it happens for the reader too, that there's this sort of cheeriness in this world and the sense that there's something bigger than this sort of dark storyline that we're in the middle of. And it seems like, at least with what they've written here, that they understand that. And that gives me some hope or expectation that hopefully they'll at least handle this right. And I'm particularly curious to see how they handle the singing, which I was kind of curious until I read this whether or not they would actually incorporate that. So it sounds like they will, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how they handle that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think we don't want Middle Earth to feel ever as dark as, while I do appreciate it, but for example, as the world of Westeros, because that world can feel really dark, but again, it kind of fits with the world, which is more of this realistic, grayish kind of world. While Middle Earth indeed does feel more magical, especially it should feel more magical in this era, even more than in the movies. So I think, yeah, that's a good point that having Tom Bombadil around to maybe keep things light, well, I guess fun, not intended, but definitely on point. To keep things light in the otherwise sea of darkness is a good idea. Though still, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this character translates to screen, because as we talked, and as it is also mentioned in the article, he was cut from the previous adaptations, and in a way, he was cut for a good reason, because having him in this generally more realistic medieval epic story um, does kind of take away from the realism of it, and he doesn't really contribute to the grander story. But having him here, I guess it's going to be interesting to see how they will handle that, because taking Tom Bombadil and then putting him across the map in a completely different setting that what we're used to seems like a solid gamble. But let's see. But yeah,
Can I take
yeah, we.
this
What do you think
last
about this?
comment that you said to make a little rant? I don't understand why people go watch fantasy and expect realism. I watch it for the magic, I want it for the whimsical of thing, I want it for hidden messages that you maybe take out of context sometimes in the real world, as Sam does. But like Lord of the Rings for me in Middle Earth is a very magical place where things happen because they just happen. You don't have to always have to explain that. Like, the elves defy gravity, you have a more loose magical system that is not so strict with like rules of how the spells work. So I don't really understand people going to see that kind of stuff, knowing that it is very magical, very non-explanatory, very being the way it is, and then requesting realism. And that's why I love that we are seeing Tom Bombadil getting included in it, because in Middle Earth we are here for elves doing magical things and just flying off their bats and going into battle and then doing all that stuff, and people connecting with their minds and whatever, and things that you don't understand how they work, but they just work. And that's why what I expect to see from Tom Bobadil. You won't understand why he's there. He's just there. He's himself, and he is going to somehow work in the story. And I'm very excited to see him singing. And I don't know what Goldberry is, but I hope she's somewhere or we see her in the future because I don't believe anywhere in history of Middle Earth Tombi was completely alone. I mean, we don't mention his time as a single bro going around Arda. But yeah, uh, from leaving the gold bay open, I don't know if we will see her, if we will not, but I hope we do. Like in this season or in later as well. We don't know how long Tom will stick around, but very excited for him.
I mean, I think the problem is how do you take the river daughter away from the river? You know, I would love to see her
Yeah.
too, but it just seems that that's even harder to do than taking Tom Bombadil away from his realm.
Yeah, I mean, he is connected to, I guess the way I see it, I think he's connected to nature in general. So I guess it would it's easier to move him around. But I agree, like it is definitely strange to see him so far away from the realm that he calls his. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe we will end up seeing Goldberry as well. Or maybe at least there's a reference to her or something. Who knows? But regarding Tom Bombadil him specifically, his presentation on the screen. If we could move to the last paragraph, there's one bit that's very interesting. Yeah, exactly. So here it's Kinar's Kinar talking about the character and his perception of how to like create his accent and so on. So, Gregory, I think you have a pretty nice voice for reading. So maybe do you want to just go through this paragraph? Maybe just focus on like specific quotes, not all the descriptions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The rock of Cornwall just sort of erupts out of the sea, and you can see all the layers of accretion. I was looking at it and just thinking, God, this has been here for so long. It's a bit like standing on Table Mountain in South Africa, and you think this mountain has seen everything, and that this silly little city developed from this tiny little speck. It must feel so young to this mountain, this tiny little city, now a fantastic city. I remember looking up at those rocks and thinking, the things that it's seen, the sailors that have passed by. When I was thinking of the oldest part of Britain, that was where I naturally found myself being led. So I worked with Leif McPherson, the dialect coach, on getting a Cornish accent together. Those were the big building blocks of the character.
All right, thank you very much. So I have a kind of an idea of what this accent sounds like, but I will definitely not try to copy it. So yeah, sadly, I don't know if we have anyone who can actually properly do it. Sorry, we have a comment in the chat. So Robert joined us in the beginning of the stream from In Deep Geek. For those who are not sure, you should absolutely check the channel. He has so many amazing videos about the Lord of the Rings, about A Song of Ice and Fire, about The Witcher, and some others as well. So Robert, thank you very much for joining us. Technology fails happen sometimes, sadly. We know all about it. Uh, but we appreciate you joining us, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other opportunities in the future to join us. So we're looking forward to having you here once again. Everybody, once again, please check out that channel. That's by far one of the best channels regarding Lord of the Rings, and Robert always does a great job of talking about any topic. I think the most recent video was about Ungoliant and how powerful she is. So you should absolutely check out his channel. And yeah, Robert, until the next time, thank you very much for being with us.
Sadly,
So
sadly, he's the one
yeah,
person who can probably do a good Cornwallish accent.
yeah. I was going to say like he might have been able to give us a little glimpse into the accent, but still, I think it's a really cool. I think it's a really cool train of thought that
Mm.
like people. I always love these, especially when some characters are so strange. like Tom Bombadil to see how someone tries to like understand the character they're about to play, and to have him. Honestly, this is the most uh, Tolkien approach I can think of in trying to understand how to play Tom Bombadil. So I think that that's a very hopeful way, hopeful sign of what we can expect from this.
I also like one more comment on the accent and the idea. I don't know if he has read Silmarillion, where like whenever his dialogue is a bit more of old English concept, or as it was done with Isildur and his writing in the Lord of the Rings, that it's a bit older. I think it's really nice that he thought of that, because it's something that we see in Tolkien's writing, that whenever he goes a bit further back in the timeline, you sort of see that sense in the text, and you see something like they use sometimes he uses a bit, sometimes a bit more old English, or I don't know how else to describe it. And if you understand what I'm saying, but yes, I think it's a nice addition that although they obviously don't have the rights to the Silmarillion, and that it pairs nicely with the idea of how you use differently in a text or in a story the way someone talks, and the evolution of the language as well.
It is a
Hmm.
quarter past now, and I think we are going to be wrapping up shortly. So I thought I'd open the floor to any last takeaways that people want to offer to the stream. You want to maybe start, Strider?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say I'm very okay. So we have a quick comment from Robert here. Okay, so something close to Hagrid from Harry Potter, that kind of accent and like rhythm to the speech. All right, thank you, Robert.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just my general impressions. I mean, I think I feel like the casting seems very on point. The actor definitely looks for me as Tom Bombadil. For anyone interested, you can see Tom Bombadil's from other adaptations easily on the internet. You can check like Tolkien Gateway or somewhere like that. They have photos of him over there and some artwork as well. And I think he looks great. I think this is a great way to approach the character from what we read so far. The question mark is how this will all play out. Like, because Tom Bombadil in Rune, you just say that one sentence, and it's like, what's happening? Why is this? Why is this happening? And why? Like, how is this going to happen? So you're a wizard stranger. That's a good comment.
Jan, I
So
see,
yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of I'm happy with the casting. I'm happy with the looks. I will reserve my impressions definitely for what we will see and in on the screen. But yeah,
how about
that's
you?
my take so far.
Any closing thoughts for us?
Yeah, so I'm really happy that we are actually getting to see Tombi in Rings of Power. Actually, this reveal and these photos somehow opened more questions than it closed, in my opinion. And the photos
Yeah.
looks a bit serious to be for Tombi. So I don't know if they're keeping the more merry times for the show, or just the stills are not transmitting that energy. But I'm really excited to see this merry fellow singing and dancing and being the light of hope in Middle Earth in this time of needs. So yeah.
For my piece, I'll just say that I'm very upset because someone in the comments beat me to this, but I want to caption the picture that we're seeing on screen right now with "You're a wizard, Gandalf." And on that note, on behalf of Harry and the rest of the Fellowship of Vans team, thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next time.